Hi everybody, Deep Elements. Thank you for joining me today. And I've had quite a few people asking me about a collision volume or physics for their models where they upload a model and they have a doorway, such as here, and they can't go through the doorway. Every model that you use within the Second Life environment on Linden Labs is also going to have a collision volume or what they call physics. And that information is part of the model, and I'm going to show you two ways to generate your physics and how to also optimize your land impact based on using optimized physics. So I'll give you some examples here. We have our physics file here, and I'll show you my actual models in ZBrush. Here we have our actual model. But for the physics, we're not going to want to actually have all of the little holes in the walls and everything be calculated on there, because at that point we'll be doubling this model. There's no way to reduce the number of polys or edges on this model, so that means in order to have a truly accurate physics model, it would have to be a complete duplicate of this model. But we don't really need that. We just want to go through the doorway. So what we need to do, and have done, is we've made a physics model. And this is one of two ways that you can deal with the physics or the collision of your mesh models that you upload. Should you have a doorway or another passage, anything like that, where you need to gain access through, then you need to go ahead and customize the way that your collision is going to work with the model itself. So here's one example of creating a physics model, and here's the actual model that we're going to be uploading into Second Life together today. So here we are in Blender, and we have our two different models. Now what we're going to want to do, if you've made these models in a modeling program outside of Blender, you're going to want to bring them into Blender, and you're going to want to save them as a DAE file. And that may be a reason why you want to do that from Blender, because Blender can do that, where ZBrush, for example, can't export as a DAE file. So, and here you're going to want to save a separate file that includes only your physics. That way you have a reference for the physics that you want to use on the actual model. So we brought them both in together. However, we're going to want to make that model invisible. Select physics 2. And let's go ahead and export that as a DAE file. We'll do selection only on the bottom left-hand corner and save it over here on our desktop. And let's call that physics 1. Okay, and that'll be a DAE file or collada. Alright, so we have a physics model. Let's hide it now. We don't need it anymore. And we have our actual model that we're going to be uploading that we see on the Second Life environment. So let's go ahead and export this now. Unselect everything and select it. File, export. The second option down, default, not Avastar, if you have the Avastar add-on. We will save it on the desktop, and this one we'll save it as model 1, and it'll go with physics 1. Okay, so we have our beta grid open right now. Let me just change my lighting, do it to midday. Okay, so we're going to upload the model and have the uploader try to calculate the physics to show the different ranges of land impact difference that you'll experience based on that. So first let's go over to desktop, and let's go to model 1 and go to open. Alright, and obviously this has a lot more edges and faces than the physics model does. Based on size, you may want to resize it so that you have a lower upload fee. You can always resize it, make it larger after you upload it, but you would go over the physics, and you can actually choose from a file. And what's really interesting is you can zoom into here, and you can have it show you the physics after you go here, and it will outline your model and let you know that it's overlapping properly. So you can do from file, and we'll do browse, and we have it here. and again in DAE format so that it's compatible with this environment. Click Open and give it a moment. This will stay grayed out until it's done initially analyzing the information in the file. Okay, so here we have, and there should be an opening for the door, I'm assuming, yeah? Yes. All right, and it looks like a solid. I usually click Analyze, and basically it coats, and as you can see, it's very, very low geometry, so that we're not increasing the land impact of this item any more than we need to in order to provide the opening for the door. Otherwise, we could just do a solid square. But in this case, we do need to have the walls, a hollow space on the inside, and an opening that we're able to come in and out from. Now that we've established our physics from our physics mesh that we created, and we see that it lines up well, another thing that you can do here, especially if it's a big structure, lowest can always be 1 when it's a large structure, especially. Over here on low, it's really up to your own discretion, but we'll just leave it like that. We'll change that to 1 and we'll keep it as a baseline. So we make lowest 1, that's the only change we do. And this one, we did put in our custom physics. We'll check that one out first. So, and we'll put an underscore iteration 1. That way we can keep track of the different ones. Now we'll calculate our weights and fees. All right, it's saying 0.5. I'm not sure how big that's going to be. Let's go over here and maybe we need to upscale it just a little bit. Let's make it 10 times its size. That'll be a land impact of 30. Upload options, let's make it 7 times its size. That's a good number. 15, okay. So we'll make it 7 times the size as a standard for this video. Let's load it out. Okay. Excellent. So we have our model here. And let me go ahead and see what the land impact is on it. It's 16 on its initial upload with a scale of 7. And I'm going to go ahead and make it bigger now. It's 67 at this size. Also, after you do the upload with the physics, you'll need to edit and go to features and change this to prim. I do believe that that makes a difference. Let's see, where is this opening? Here we are. So we have our opening here, and the opening should work. We should be able to go in and out of the structure. Yeah. So that's one way of doing it. Now, keeping this one open, that's our original. Let's go ahead and change the color of it so we can keep track. We'll start it off on red. Okay. Now, let's go ahead and upload it without using the physics that we created. So let's go over to Model 1, Open. Again, we'll simply make that 1. We'll make the scale 7. And now on physics, we won't do anything. And we'll calculate weights and fees. And we'll call that underscore 2. 15.90. 3.80. And we'll upload that. Let's size this up. That's 16. It looks like it's the same. Now we didn't do anything for physics on this one, so we may be unable to go through the doorway. Alright, see, we're unable to go through the doorway. Alright, excellent. Okay, so now let's do a direct comparison here and go to the object and look at the size. We got 16.01. Let's make that 16 by 16 by that. Let's go to this one, paste that in, and make that 16 and 16. That way they're the same exact size. Okay, and let me make sure I go to features. And this one doesn't say prim because we didn't actually attach physics mesh. So prim won't be an option there when you go ahead and choose edit and features and physics shape type. You'll only have convex hull. When I clicked on analyze, that turned the analysis of the physics mesh into convex hull information. So now let's do, suppose I can bring this up a little bit, right? Alright, so that is 67 and this is 67. So we did not increase our land impact at all by incorporating the physics model into these two. Alright, so now that's the first way. However, you may be unable to do it that way based on a whole variety of circumstances. So in that case, there's another custom way that you can get around it. This is effective on stairs, for one example, and other requirements. So we have this model here, and this one we don't have acceptable physics for. As you can see, we don't have acceptable physics for it. We can't go in and out of it. As a matter of fact, I'm going to assume we might not be able to fly down into it. Yeah, so it's like a solid box. You can't do anything with it. The physics mesh is just a solid box on it. So what we can do is you can click on that object and go to edit an object, and you can make it phantom. Close that. Now, as you know, when you make it phantom, you'll be able to walk through it. However, you do want the collision of the walls. You simply want to be able to go through the doorway. So, if you're unable to use a custom physics mesh, you will want to make your model, or whatever part that you're working with here, you will want to make it phantom, and then you will want to manually put together those prims in world and make those invisible and non-phantom. And I'll briefly show you right here how you can go ahead and do that, and I'll actually do it here with this model. So I have this model here, and it's called model_2. This is the one. Opening up my edit window, I'm going to go ahead and res out a prim here, and I'm going to move it right there. It doesn't have to be absolutely precise, but very quickly there, and stretch it from all the way side to side. It's actually quite easy. And since you have a uniform structure here, it doesn't have to be absolutely perfect. Definitely does not need to be absolutely perfect. So you have something like that. You can go ahead and raise that up. And then you can click on move, and holding down your shift key, you can move a copy right out of it. And so move that copy over this way. Right there, that should be good. That looks great. It also lines up perfectly. Stretch, not doing it on both sides so that we can get that side here. Beautiful. And then we'll do the same thing, move, and via resizing, we'll use that copy to squish it down to this end. And zooming in, we'll bring it here, and that's fine. Slide it there. Excellent. Slide that there. Oops. Wonderful. You can create a copy. Slide that down and put that into place. That works good. It doesn't have to be absolutely perfect, obviously, but you know, be as finely detailed as you'd like to be. And last but not least, we'll copy this one piece holding down the Shift key, and we'll end up using it over here. Let's go to stretch, and let's bring this here. Wonderful. Bring that there. That's perfect. And last but not least, we got to do two more things. We have our walls. However, we will need to get our ceiling and get this beam. So we'll zoom in just a little bit and get the beam. We got that. Beautiful, beautiful. Okay, and then we're going to use one of these flat ones here to make our ceiling, and we'll duplicate that. There we go. And then Control Z to bring it back into position. Click on stretch, bring this up some, bring this out some, and now we can distinguish it from its origin object. And we have a little bit of a roof here, which is great for our example. Wonderful. Alright, so this would be basically our physics mesh for our model. Now, what we need to do is zooming out a little bit, click off of there, and highlight everything there. And now zoom in and holding down Shift, click on the original model to unselect it, and confirm that we've done that by going over to Move, and everything except for that original model should move together. Okay. Control Z, and now link all of those things together. Excellent. As a test, we'll go through the door. If we try to jump, we hit the ceiling. We can't get out. Alright, and now last but not least, we select that outside and we make it transparent. And now we're able to go in and out of our model with having physics exactly where we want by building it manually in World Out of Prims. And let's go ahead and do a quick comparison. Since it was 67 and 67, let's go ahead and see what the land impact is in total now. The land impact is 74. So we raised our land impact a few more by doing it manually in World, and that is because we got an additional 1 land impact for each prim that we used. So we used 1 prim here, 1 prim here, 1 prim here, 1, 1, 1, 1, and so on. So we went from 67 to 74. So we used 7 prims basically. We used 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that's how it is. Yep, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that's why it's 74. However, you may be forced to have to use that as your technique or tactic for having a correct collision volume while also eliminating extra topology. Because although this is a relatively simple kind of complexity difference from the physics model, you may be challenged with other kinds of complexities that you can't emulate physics so well for, and you may need to manually do it. So anyway, that is a quick little tutorial here on how to work with physics for your models. I'll also take another quick little visit into here. And show a quick difference as well. Make that 1. Make that 7. And then go to physics. And we can choose lowest. Analyze. You can have it analyze different levels of geometry for you. However, a lot of times the SL generation isn't really the best. As you can see here, it's very broken. You'd have to go to high, and high would give you something that is basically, in this case, an exact replica of the model, and that isn't what we'd want. So it's another emphasis as to why in a lot of cases you'll want to have a manual file you've created where you do choose from file, because in order to get one that actually covers all the walls and maybe doesn't have a spot that pokes through, you would really need to do that, because the alternative is for this model, there's no way to optimize the geometry any further, so the physics mesh is going to be an exact duplicate of your model. So my advice is to do from a file and to think about that and have that in mind as part of your design process and part of your workflow as well, is to keep in mind having mesh available that you will use for physics, or be planning for it ahead of time, because once your model comes in, obviously there'll be parts of your model, like an opening, that are functional by its own existence, and you're not going to want the model to be ruined because a part of it can't function by its own existence. So by incorporating the physics portion or the collision volume of your mesh into the design process, you'll be able to tackle that a lot more effectively and avoid a lot of problems. So I hope that this has been helpful, and if you haven't already subscribed, please do so. I very much appreciate it. And again, this is Deep Elements, and thank you for watching. Have a great day.